Welcome to the Outlier Mindset Podcast, your guide for living a life by design. Here, we explore the journey of becoming an outlier, finding your purpose, mastering your mindset, optimizing your health, achieving financial freedom, and building a life centered around your passions. So tune in, transform, and thrive. Welcome to the Outlier Mindset. Let the journey begin. So welcome to the podcast. I'm sitting here today with my good friend, Josh Blue. Hey, Josh.
Hey, Rod, man.
It's so nice to have you on the show. I couldn't think of a worse guest to possibly have on. I can't even say that with a straight face.
Well, this is great, man. I hope you're as good an interviewer as you are a friend.
Oh, well, that
It's gonna be sloppy.
I don't know. The bar's pretty low on that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we've known each other for quite some time now.
Yeah, we met and we're friends instantly.
Yeah. No, I remember that hockey game. It was a mutual friend that took us to a hockey game, and next thing you know, man, we were just hanging out.
Well, the poor guy sat between us, and we just talked over
all night long.
He couldn't get a word in edgewise.
Yeah.
We were just like, oh, yeah, this is my dude.
Yeah, it's like, oh, yeah, I forgot you were here.
Yeah, thanks for getting us together. The matchmaker, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely been good.
Yeah, we've had a good run, for sure.
So, Josh, Last Comic Standing, that's where you got your start. That was a long time ago. What year was that?
It was 2006.
What was that process like? I mean, you're probably just coming out of college and
So I've been doing some stand-up for a few years. I had found the scene here in Denver, and then I auditioned the year before I won. I actually auditioned in Chicago. It was like a cattle call sort of thing.
Right.
Out there with, hundreds of comics waiting in the cold. I remember it was 6 hours of waiting in line and 15 below. And then I got my 2 minutes on stage. You just go up in front of two judges, and they were not impressed. So they were... after like 30 seconds, they're like, thank you, we've seen enough.
They wouldn't even give you the full 2 minutes.
No. So then when I walked off, I walked by them and I go, this was a shitty Make-A-Wish. And then they both laughed and then I just fucking laughed. And but then the next year, I auditioned again. But this time the audition process was a little different. There actually was a spot for me to perform at a comedy club on a regular show. They did that with like real comics, so they just make it look like everybody waits in the cattle.
And you're a real comic at that point?
I had become a real comic and a viable someone on the scene that was on the way up. I'd done a bunch of college gigs. I went to a national college convention where they book a bunch of shows, and I got 35, maybe even more college gigs all over the country. And when you're doing that many shows an hour at a time, you get pretty good. Yeah. Or at least you get your chops in. Yeah. And you learn how to deal with any situation. Oh, this one's in the cafeteria. You're like, oh, okay, here we go.
So how many people do you think you beat out?
They say there's like thousands of comics that try out, because there's hundreds of people in each line, and then there's like 7 cities they go to or something like that.
Yeah. So thousands of comics come in, you get narrowed down, and you're in the top 12?
Yeah, they narrow it down, and I think the first narrowing was to 24 and then down to 12, and then the 12 move on to the Queen Mary. Yeah. Haunted ass boat.
What was that night like though when you got notified that you were going to be on last? I mean, where were you at? Were you at home? You get the notification?
No, they do it right there when you. So when you you perform that night on stage, and then everybody performs, and then they. And
then do you go in the back room and talk shit to the 12 people who didn't get it?
Hell yeah. Oh yeah, man, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of nerves in those rooms for sure, but it's still comics, and it's our nature to talk shit, man. So, trash talking, I knew I had a good set, so
Yeah.
I had a feeling.
Did you get to see like the other comics and what they were doing? See their sets?
Yeah, so they had monitors in the dressing room.
Yeah.
But they all had us in the same dressing room, so it's like,
Oh man.
yeah. So it's
God, that had to be a hotbed. Just so much stress.
Yeah, but I could tell by the other comics' reaction when I came off stage that I had done well. I got a standing ovation, so I can't really fuck with that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. And then so from there, just each week, I mean, the series was supposed to go, I think, 12 weeks, and they did 15 because it was so successful that they added shows to it.
Yeah.
And all the contestants that made it down to the 12 were great and just became friends. And it's weird because that show always wanted drama.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, we want this drama, and we're like, we're comics, like,
Yeah.
you know, we're just hanging out, like,
Yeah.
like we're just funny. So I think it was interesting to be able to like change it from a drama show, because there's still, you know, we gotta beat each other, but between us, we never like showed like animosity or anything toward each other, which I thought was really cool.
And they were actually, the selections were being done by people voting at home, right?
Right,
So,
yeah, so you call in. And I didn't perform much once I got on the boat because it was a challenge. Like, the people, other comics say who they
think they're funnier than, right? Yeah.
Nobody. So I think Gabriel said maybe that he was funnier than me.
Yeah.
So he just was pulling it out of a hat because he was confident that he was funnier than anybody. So that was just a cool experience to be on a show and not perform but still be funny. So I was being funny off stage. So when they put me on, I was just like the fun, you know, who I am, just playful, love to throw football and jump around, do shit, you know, and, you know, just a good heart. Like, I'm not mean-spirited. I love jackassing around, but it's kind of a devilish hint to it.
One of my favorite moments was you being up there, and you did a 2-minute piece, and I think you yelled once at the crowd to be quiet because you only had 2 minutes and you wanted to get the next joke in, but you had Kathy asking you some questions there at the end.
Oh, yeah, so after my set, they actually called me back up. They didn't call everybody back up. They called me back up.
Well, Josh, everybody loves you, obviously. So what inspired you to do stand-up of all things?
I didn't think I had a choice, really. What am I going to do? Be a traffic cop? The crowd went bonkers.
Yeah.
And to me, I've had several people say, like, when I saw you do that, I knew you were going to win the show.
It was the most memorable part for me, and I remember watching that and thinking, man, I really like this guy.
Well, no, I think what was cool about that moment was, yes, my stand-up had gotten me there, but that was a genuine interaction between me. Like, it wasn't scripted at all. It was just like, that's how I respond to shit. Like,
Yeah.
It's weird to have confidence in your humor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know that at any time I can pull the trigger in a room and get the whole room to laugh on and off stage.
Yeah. And then you go on, you win Last Comic Standing, which is awesome. That was probably a catalyst for a lot of things for you.
Well, that definitely launched my career. I mean, I went from doing those college gigs to doing sold-out weekends in theaters, you know.
Yeah.
2,500 seat venues and shit, like blowing places up, you know, and just so much work, but so much fun. Like, I mean, I was the first person to do stand-up on the Ellen DeGeneres show, which to me is like such a cool honor. I'm a huge fan of her comedy, and the fact that she picked me to like do that was so cool. And then just touring, like, again, I love performing and making people laugh, and all of a sudden I went from like the potential to then all of a sudden just doing it and holding on like, here we go.
Yeah.
And 200 shows a year since then. So that's insane.
That is insane. 200 shows a year. So Josh, how many comedy specials do you have out right now?
So altogether, I believe there's 4-hour specials and a CD. So,
And you and I did Delete together.
Yep.
What was that? Was that number 4?
yeah, that was number 3 as far as specials go.
As far as special goes.
Yeah, you produced it and filmed it.
Well, you and I, that was the first thing that you and I had worked on together, which was pretty cool. It was cool in a lot of different ways, but I think one of the coolest parts was the fact that it was all about you. You were able to control your own content.
I like most things that are all about me. I know a lot of you guys know who I am, but I'm also well aware that maybe your friend brought you here tonight. And I'm pretty sure right about now you're looking at your friend like... Yeah, I mean, it's really cool to be able to not just write the material and perform it, but then afterward get to edit it and sit down with the crew and be like, this is what we want, the timing here is off, or and actually have it, and then actually be in possession of the material.
Well, I think we would have been a lot better if we could have done the set a little different, maybe with ropes.
We could add some more ropes in there.
People are not going to understand what we're making fun of there.
It's okay. They don't need to get everything, man. No, it was just cool working with a friend and someone that, like, I really felt like for the first time, you had my best interest in mind. Like, you weren't doing it from a point of view of, like, money. I felt like it was more like, I want to create something that's cool.
Yeah.
And you did, and you helped me to do that.
No, it was great. And it was one of those things where we got into rooms, we were able to create together and, just think outside of the box. There was, it was one of those things where sometimes it's nice to do that because you don't have those outside pressures of anybody saying, hey, we have to do it this way or we have to do it that way. Being able to create your own content is so key.
Yeah.
So.
No, it is. Amazing.
One of my favorite things was your kiddo. I don't know if you remember that one or not.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
When, of course, for those that don't know, you've got 2 kids. You got Simon and Seika. Incredible kids.
Thanks.
But
they're good people.
They're incredible. Do you think one's funnier than the other one?
Yeah, Seika.
Seika for sure?
Yeah.
So when Simon got on stage and tried to imitate being Josh Blue.
Yeah, he's a dick, man. So whatever he got on the set, right?
Oh yeah.
You guys were setting up cameras.
Setting up cameras.
And then he was walking around with the palsy arm sticking.
Oh, he got on stage. He grabbed the mic, put his palsy arm back behind him, and started yelling, "I'm Josh Blue. I'm Josh Blue."
What a dick, man. What a dick. That's some funny shit. Yeah. No, my kids are both very funny. My daughter got me pretty good the other day. We had a family friend pick her up from school, and I was like asking her, like, hey, did you have any problem finding Angie? And she's like, no, especially because she was waving and saying my name. And I was like, haha. And then she goes, it took me a minute, but
It took me a minute.
I'm like, God damn it. That's funny as shit, man. It took me a minute.
Oh yeah, your kids are definitely going to be a chip off the old block.
Yeah,
What do you always say?
sure.
The shit doesn't fall far from the horse.
Yep, that's true.
So
Forgot about that joke. Shit doesn't fall far from the horse.
So we produced that special, and then that actually got you onto the Tonight Show. What was that like?
Obviously, the Tonight Show is a huge milestone in any comedian's career. Like, I always say that's kind of one of those ones where, like, I felt validated as a comic.
Yeah.
I'd done so many other things. I mean, again, this is my 4th special, but being on the Tonight Show really, like, I was like, damn, I'm somebody, you know? Now this dude is coming towards me, and I'm, like, evaluating my life. Like, okay, well, how bad do I look that this homeless dude is trying to help me out?
When you were on network television, I mean, there was no F-bombs, there was no, the profanity and all that. I mean, there was a little bit of content that was a little bit, maybe a little bit edgy for cable TV or for network television. But what's it like for people who knew you there because you were so lovable? I mean, there's this lovable Josh character, and then now it might be a little bit of a shock, for somebody who comes in and hears, F-bomb Josh coming on board.
Yeah, I mean, well, I always say the deciding factor on that is if they're still laughing, who gives a fuck? Like, I don't care what you thought. You know?
Yeah.
So to me, it's like, I think what I'm saying is funnier than the offensive side of it for people.
Yeah.
Or hopefully, I mean, it's weird. I feel like I have this weird gift where even though I say swear word, I'm not saying anything too grossly graphic, but I do like to use swear words like a condiment to the meal, which just adds a little oomph to it,
Yeah.
But I've had like old ladies leave my show and go, "You're just so funny and it's just so clean," and I'm like, I said fuck like 40 times, but they don't hear it,
Right. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about growing up in Minnesota as a kid with palsy.
Sure.
I know that you and I have had these conversations, and you've probably spoken to others about it, but thinking through what it was like for you growing up, tell me a little bit about your family, about your background, and what it was like growing up as a kid with palsy.
Yeah, so I'm the youngest of 4. I have very smart parents. My dad speaks 13 languages, and my mom's just, amazing, like housewife, but like makes bread from scratch. So I grew up like just eating good food, and and I'll tell you this: I'm the youngest one. I have palsy, and none of my siblings have any disabilities. But I feel very fortunate in the fact that I was the youngest one instead of the first one. I feel like if your first kid has a disability and you're learning how to be a parent with that, you're going to be way overprotective and all that. But by the time they got to me, they're like, "Nah, he's fine. Like this, it just moves different,
Right.
My parents were very supportive of me, and like my mom has this quote. She says, "By the time we realized there was something wrong with you, we realized there was nothing wrong with you." So that like.
Does she still believe that?
No, I was like, "But Mom, you know now that there's something wrong with you, right?" She's like, "Yes."
Yes, in a good way,
Yes,
though.
for sure.
I still love you.
So I was in special education till the 4th grade. I went to the Como Elementary. It was a normal elementary school, but they had a bunch of classes for disabled folks. And, I think it was by the 4th grade where they realized, they're like, "We gotta let this guy go. Like, we can't keep him in special ed."
Yeah.
So they actually it was me, my buddy Nick, and a couple other disabled kids. They just integrated us into the mainstream, and we were the first kids to go through as disabled kids in regular classes. So that being said, there was quite a bit of a learning curve for the teachers.
Yeah.
Just because they had never dealt with someone that needs extra help, or it challenged their old ways of thinking. I always say this: my mom definitely went to my school quite a few times and made some teachers cry.
Right, because she would go in and
advocate for me. And just be like, "Look, it's because his body doesn't work the way you think it should. It doesn't mean he's not smart and understand the concepts of what you're teaching."
Yeah.
And I definitely saw that through my whole education, early education through high school. So I had people write for me all the way through elementary school.
Like your homework and such?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But other students in the class.
Okay.
So it was really easy to just skate by. It's like, you know this? Like, you know, they just do the work. And I'm like, yep, that's it. You know? And then when I got to junior high, they provided me with a scribe. And I also think this is a very influential part of my life is she's a middle-aged black woman from Mississippi. Her husband's a reverend. They relocated, and it was like going to school every day with my black mom. And like she would sit in the desk next to me and write down all my notes. But it was just like definitely like a very influential person in my life, Rosa Marie Daniels.
Do you still communicate with her?
Yeah, we just were texting the other day.
Oh, that's really cool.
Really cool, and you know, it's just cool to like. I mean, what a unique situation.
Yeah.
So, you know, took all my tests with her, took everything.
Yeah.
But then another big part was moving to Africa my sophomore year of high school.
So you were born in Africa.
I was born in Cameroon. Moved to Minnesota.
Yeah.
Then my dad got a Fulbright scholarship in Saint Louis, Senegal.
Okay.
And my mom homeschooled me. It was really interesting. I had a family friend my age, and he just asked his parents, like, can I go live with them in Africa? So we just took my buddy Hans.
Yeah.
And my mom homeschooled us.
Oh, wow. For how many years were you there?
Just 1 year.
Just 1 year.
1 year.
Yeah.
But being 15 and like, I'll tell you, like, having a disability and then living in a third world country and being white, it was such a, like, eye-opening experience for me because I had a lot of hang-ups on palsy and all that, like, oh, why me? And then I went to Senegal and I was like, I'm a pretty fortunate dude and I should be grateful for what I have and work around that shit as opposed to, like, woe is me. And that, honestly, that's the big tipping point in my life where I was like, I just need to embrace shit and not be so hung up on other people. I was always like concerned other people thought of me and, you know, as far as the disability.
Yeah. Well, what was that like on the playground? I mean, I know that like my kids are in school and kids can be just really mean. What was it like, you know, with the disability? Were kids overly mean or? You
know, I'm very fortunate in the fact that, like, sure, there was kids here and there, but overall, I was friends with everybody. Mm-hmm. Like, I was just able to, like, almost chameleon-like, oh, they talk this way, I'll talk that way. You know, these, you know, pretty girls talk this way, you know?
Yeah.
Just go be silly. And I definitely have my own friends, I call friends, but I also felt very welcome in other groups. And then the other side of it too was if there was someone that would bully me, I would just tell a group of
your friends,
like, hey, that guy's bullying. I mean, I remember there's a large Hmong community, Hmong and Vietnamese, in Minnesota. I was friends with all the Hmong kids. I told the Hmong kid, and the kid was chasing me on the playground, and he tripped him for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, he's like, stop messing with Josh, and he never messed with me again.
He's gone, yeah.
So it was like that kind of thing, like where, I mean, looking back, that's rough, but the dude never messed with me again.
Yeah.
You know, so
right.
I just had that kind of a community where people were willing to stand up for me, which was pretty cool.
Well, you told me too about, you know, I want to say you guys were playing football. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
And they were kind of taking you a little bit for granted?
Sure. I mean, well, that's the thing. We played football every Sunday, neighborhood kids. I mean, my best friends in my neighborhood was Vietnamese family. I mean, 16 kids. I was number 17. They just treated me like one of their own.
Yeah.
And then we had other kids in the neighborhood, and we'd all play football. And it'd be funny because there'd be kids from other neighborhoods that would come in, and they'd be like, we picked Josh. I'm like, why do you pick that guy first? You know? And then, like, 5 touchdowns there. Like, oh, that's why we picked Josh first. Because, I was just really fast.
Yeah.
And I somehow over the shoulder just fits right in.
The bread basket.
See you later. It was a very deceptive, juke. You don't know which way I would go. But my quarterback buddy is like, I'll just throw it uphill and run under it.
I get it.
Yeah, so that was cool.
Sometimes we can aimlessly drift through our life, not really sure how to break the patterns and live the life that you've always dreamed of. I get it. I have been there, so caught up in chasing opportunities until I found myself in a life that felt foreign to me. It took me years to unwind the messy web to get back to what I've been put on this planet to do. And let me tell you this, purpose doesn't have to feel out of arm's reach. And I designed a plan for you to do a little bit each day over the next 30 days in a challenge that I call the Outlier 30. It's specifically designed to help you find or create more clarity around your purpose. So if you're feeling lost and you want to finally turn things around and live that life that you were destined to create, sign up right now. It's free. You have absolutely nothing to lose and the whole world to gain. Visit gorodman.com/outlier30 today.
I always prided myself on being very athletic, and I think that's part of the way I was able to. I like showing off, so it's like if I burn an able-bodied person, they're like, there's no way you should have done that. They're like, do it again, and you're like, okay, this guy's a real deal. And then also, as far as I felt like not so much at school, but more just in general life. Like when I go to a store or something, then that's where I noticed people would stare at me. And just and it's weird. I also had a pretty early understanding of this, but it's like if a 7-foot tall person walks in the room, everybody's gonna be like, look at the dude, holy, you know? So I just realized, yes, I do move differently, and it's eye-catching, and it's hard not to look at if you're just trying to figure out what it is, and especially kids, they don't necessarily know. But I do have a distinct memory of one day just okay, if you're going to stare at me, I might as well give you something to stare at so it's entertaining for me, at least. So then I feel like I'm the one in charge of what you're seeing. Yeah. And I really embrace that, and with my timing, I'm pretty good at making people laugh.
So comedy came to you out of people are already looking at me anyway. I'm going to give them something to look at.
Yep. I think it was definitely one of those. I mean, people have called it a defense mechanism, but I don't feel like it's necessarily that. I guess it is. I don't know.
Well, what about you and I have talked about. I know when I first met you, I used the I word, and you didn't like the I word. Inspiring.
Yeah, inspirational.
Inspirational, and most people would love and embrace the word. They'd love to be called inspiring or inspirational. Why have you kind of rejected that?
Well, inspirational. It's right, because you think that it should be a thing of yes, I'm inspirational. But unfortunately, that's a word that's associated with disabled people for getting out of their house or doing anything it's just so inspirational. Like I'm just going to the liquor store,
Yeah.
So I think what the problem with the I word is it just takes away any validity of the stuff that I'm really doing.
Actually accomplishing.
Right. I'm a damn good stand-up.
Yeah.
But when you don't say, you're an awesome stand-up, when you say you're inspirational, that takes away from how good I am at being a stand-up.
Yeah.
Oh,
no, I totally get that. I think too, Josh, it's I always want to know how people, overcome an adversity and then either excel or spiral downward, right? You can either go upward or downward. And it seems like so many people have different types of traumas. I mean, you had the disability that you had to overcome, but I mean, everybody's got disabilities in a billion different ways, right? I mean, we're all flawed. We've all got things that we've had to overcome in life. What do you think, if you look back, I know you talked about your trip to Africa and how that moved you, but what do you think was a real turning point where you could either embrace what you were and what you had to move in a positive direction versus just potentially going the other way?
That's a good question. There's so many little things that build up to a reckoning, right? Where you're like, oh, that changed my view, and now I'm sliding this way on. You know? Whereas before you fight it. Like, I'm disabled, but why do I have to be this way? Instead of being like, I'm disabled, now what do I do with it? You know, the reckoning of coming to terms with who you are and the way you're viewed in the world, and can you change that? I also feel like there's some part of me that there's this inner desire to create shit. Like, so, you know, I love doing artwork and sculpture, and like I do these giant wood carvings that you're like, no way, your shaky ass did that, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, how are you doing that? Why would you do that? But that's just something in my soul that I wake up in the night and I go, tomorrow I need to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm the same way with painting. I'll just get in my head, I need to paint. And cool shit comes out. You know? And I feel the same way with stand-up, but with the, like, just life. Like, if I watch TV, I feel like a piece of shit the rest of the day. And I'm like, I should have cleaned the yard. I should have done this. I should have finished this drawing or my book, or, you know. So I think whatever is in me that just my brain won't let me not push forward. Like, I'll tell you this is interesting. I don't know why I have the right to say this or have the right to have thought this, but like when I was a kid, I always knew I was going to be successful. Like I just was like, I'm gonna be successful. Like, I don't know what it was. Stand-up was definitely not on the radar.
Yeah.
But I just knew I was going to be something.
How old were you then? I mean, when you sat there and said, I know that I'm going to be successful, when did it come to you?
I don't know that it came to me. It was just more of a thing that was like, I was never like said that. It was just in my head where I was like.
But did your parents plant that?
Again, I think it's a culmination of a bunch of different things where it's like my parents just believed that I would be successful. And, you know, maybe we should define successful too, because that's a lot of different things. You know, normally successful for a disabled person is like living on your own and you know, having a stable job that you go to and you don't mess it up.
Yeah.
But for me, I knew I was going to be like living good and enjoying myself. Like, I love doing stand-up. Like, can you imagine me as something else? Like,
no, I can't.
Like I love being a zookeeper, but wouldn't I be the whacked out zookeeper?
So what about now, Josh? As a comedian, where are you?
I'm in a goddamn pandemic. Where are you at, bro?
You and me both, but professionally. I mean, you know, looking back, you've come a long ways. As a comedian, where do you think you're at in your growth and in your career?
Man, it's weird. Obviously, we're in a pandemic, so it's hard to really gauge where we're at. But as far as where I'd like to be, I'm nowhere near as big a comic as I would like to be.
Yeah, but what's holding you back?
There's a few obstacles. I hate to use the disability as a like I can't overcome this sort of thing. But I've been doing it long enough now where I just wonder why, with the amount of success I've had in a lot of different avenues, why it hasn't come to more fruition as far as recognition goes on a national scale. Which is really weird because I've always said this. I'm like the most famous person. Like, you've been out with me, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't walk 10 feet without somebody.
So I'm not as successful as I am famous, which is a weird thing to say. Like, I went out with the Lumineers, like the lead singer of the Lumineers, to a hockey game, and by the end of the night, his wife was like, "You're the most famous person that we know. Like, nobody doesn't know you." And I'm like, so why hasn't that translated into like Netflix giving a shit about me, or like other like other avenues as far as mainstream TV? Like, if I won Last Comic by millions of votes, why wouldn't like NBC have parlayed that into me being something that is constantly on there, like making them money? Like, the public spoke. They voted.
So you think they put you into like a disability bucket where they say, well, this is a disabled comic, instead of just looking at you?
Yes. So I'll give you an example as far as acting goes. Right?
You act?
Well, no, because they won't give me a gig, man. Somebody sent me a thing, and they're like, "Hey, we want you to audition for this role. Let me forward you what the network sent us." And they said, "This person has some sort of degenerative bone disease. We need someone like Josh Blue, or we need Josh Blue, or someone like that."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, so does the character have this degenerative bone disease and cerebral palsy?
Mm.
Because you know, they don't even see the difference in the disability or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So that I'm up against that sort of mentality. Now, the one that I always like go to if I want to like get pumped up and mad about shit, then it's the Montreal Comedy Festival, just for laughs.
Mm-hmm.
Huge festival, the largest in the world. Very prestigious.
Yeah.
You know, same sort of thing as getting the Tonight Show. I got that 2 years ago. It was the first time I got it in my whole career.
And do you apply for that, or is it an invite? How does that work?
It's they pick you.
So all these years.
Well, and then also, I mean, I have agents and managers. My agents pitch me every year to it too.
Really?
And they turn me down. So I finally get there, have a big gala show. William H. Macy is the host.
Yeah.
Like a big deal for their TV, you know?
Yeah.
And my agent is there, and I ask her, I go, "Why did it take me so long to get here?"
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, "You know, just like their feedback was, or this year, even trying to get you in here, was, we don't know where he would fit into the festival."
Mm.
And I'm like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm a killer stand-up comedian.
Right.
So they saw me as like just someone who talks about disability that wouldn't be relatable to the entire country of Canada.
Right.
So that was like fire for me. I was like, all right, I'm going to show these people why I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm going to show them why I belong here. Oh, and that's how my agent actually got me on there. They're like, you understand, like, he opens for Ron White and Dave Chappelle. Like, they asked for him to open.
Yeah.
And that's how she finally got me in.
Yeah.
And then I did my set. I ripped it, man. 7-minute set. Standing ovation. Got a standing ovation in the middle of the show. The only comic to get one on the show. And I'm on fire. I come off stage. I'll show them. Big wig from the festival standing in the wings.
Yeah.
Comes up. Pats me on the show, and he goes, pats me right on the head and goes, "You're so courageous."
Oh, God.
And
like a charity case.
I almost punched a guy in his face.
Yeah. I'm surprised you didn't.
I was like, did you not just see that I destroyed?
Yeah.
There wasn't one moment where people weren't dying laughing.
Yeah.
And that's not what he saw. He saw me being courageous by getting up there and in this broken body. And I was like, so from then on, like for me, like before I filmed Broccoli,
Mm-hmm.
I had my comic buddy. I was like, hey man, because I told him the story.
Yeah.
I was like, could you call me the night of my special and remind me of that story?
Mm-hmm.
And he did. He called me and said, hey man, remember that old motherfucker? And I was like, and I just went out and destroyed my set.
Yeah.
Because that was a very big eye-opening thing for me, because it had taken me so long to get there, and I made it. And I was like, yes. And then it was like, but I'm still up against this. And there's no way I'm going to change. If that set didn't change the perspective that I'm a stand-up, then I'm not going to change these folks' perspective.
Well,
So I have to go and do it on my own. So that's now I'm on this path of like, okay, these Netflix, I mean, remember what Netflix said about
delete.
delete?
Yeah. Well, and you know, it seems to me that the decision tree, like a comic who maybe doesn't have a disability can go in and he might get the feedback that maybe his content just sucked, right?
Right.
So, but you have a whole nother layer. It's like, well, okay, was my content bad? Are you uncomfortable with the disability? Do you think you're going to see where I fit? I would think that your decision tree, you have to sort out a lot more details to get really, I think, authentic feedback.
Yeah, I don't know that I ever truly get authentic feedback.
Yeah.
Because there's so many factors of what forms the authentic feedback.
Yeah.
You know, like, and again, I would like to say that it's not the disability, or part of me does want to say it's a disability, so then I'm like, oh, at least I'm not a shitty comic.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But again, I've been selling out shows for 15 years, and people come back and like give me standing ovations. Like it's
Well, your content's always good, and of course you use the disability too in a lot of your jokes. But at the same time, you know, I've been to a lot of your shows. You know, you and I've traveled a bit together in that too, and it just seems to me that when I can listen to a joke that you've done, hear it 3 more times, and I'm still snickering, you know, when you're saying it, because it's good content. It's funny stuff. It's very relevant, and it's you.
right, and it's changing constantly. That's the thing. You don't put out 5 specials without really putting in the work and changing the material over. And if you see that in my show, it's constantly just evolving into the next thing.
Well, I remember too when you and I were doing Delete, I asked you for, you know, just the jokes. I said, okay, send me over a list of the jokes and kind of what you're going to be doing and how you're going to be doing it. And you sent me over this list of emojis. Like all your jokes were, I had no idea what the hell it was.
Just wrote my set list in emojis.
Yeah, I know. It was like, okay, this is not going to be helpful whatsoever in producing this show. But that's kind of how you've always rolled, right?
Yeah, I don't write anything down. I don't really prepare.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a thought process in my head. If there's a new joke I'm working on, I'm always like, okay, remember to get to that one. And
Yeah.
don't say that one because you're trying to get rid of it.
Yeah.
You know, because like I said, once I film a special, I just drop the material as much as I can, but I still have to fill an hour, so I can't just lose everything and write a whole new hour.
Yeah. Well, you know, and I think, you know, going back to thinking about, you know, you're talking about how do you know how authentic people are and giving you the feedback on your content, on your materials and everything. But I mean, really, I would think that the jury and the judge would be more your comedians. You know, you get so much support from so many comedians that do such incredible work, and they want you.
Right.
When they come to town, they say, I want Josh. I want Josh to open for me. I want him to perform with me. I would think that's probably the best feedback that you could potentially get from anybody, is your peers saying, I want Josh Blue.
Right. And like when I play here at Comedy Works and I'll look over on the side and there's like a bunch of comedians standing and watching your set. Like, to me, that's the biggest nod you can get, because comics are a tough audience.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk a little bit about the Paralympics.
Oh yeah.
So you were talking a little bit earlier about you being an athlete and such, and we probably should have talked about it back then, but you competed for the United States team in soccer in the Paralympics. What was that like?
Yeah, I was in the '04 Paralympic Games in Athens, Greece, and it's really interesting if you put it all in perspective of what else was happening in my life. So it was like I became a comedian at the same time I joined the national team, and both things took off. Like I tried out for the team, and then like 2 months later, I'm in Russia playing.
Wait. So you tried out and you were competing 2 months later? So it doesn't seem like much of a training period.
No. Well, the thing about Paralympics is a pretty shallow player pool, man.
Everybody there was no cuts or what?
I mean, they could only take 12 to Russia, so I was made actually, my first tournament was Holland. So I was in Holland like 2 months later, playing, and I scored 2 goals in my first game.
Yeah.
And they were like, they're touting me as the next like phenom Paralympic soccer player.
Yeah.
And then it's so weird, this whole story. It was the European Cup, and I don't know why the U.S. was in it.
Yeah.
Because again, there's probably not enough players.
Teams or whatever. Yeah.
So we went in and, like I said, scored 2 in my first goal, and I think I had 1 in my second game.
Yeah.
And then all the teams were just like, this guy's the guy to watch.
He's the real deal.
Yeah. So we made it all the way to the finals, and by the end of the game, it's like 2 minutes left. It's 1-1. We're playing England.
Yeah.
And I toe poke the ball off their star player.
Yeah.
And I just get it and I kick it back on defense on our side to John McCullough, and then he booted it up over top to the guy that they should have been paying attention to, Josh McKinney, the captain of the team.
Yeah.
And he just buried that thing in the back of the net, and we won the European Cup. We're the first American team to win any tournament outside the U.S.
That's cool.
And a men's team.
Yeah.
Sorry, not women's, of course. They're monsters. But like we won that tournament, and I was obviously took from there, being, not many people can say they represent their country in a sport.
Yeah.
And then to go out and win something right off the bat and be good at it, and then it was a major part of my life. I was on the team for like 8 years.
Yeah.
And been to a bunch of countries.
But you knew, this wasn't a big surprise to you. You knew as a kid. You always said you were going to do big things, and you just went out and did them.
Yeah, and again, it's weird because, I always think about this. So I went to the Olympics, and think about the other players. Like, that was their crowning achievement in their life. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, just something I did on the side. It was weird. Being on that team and being successful on that team is the fact that I was a starter or first sub in from pretty much the whole time I was on the team, but my coach and probably my teammates wished I had practiced more. I just loved playing the game, just didn't like jogging.
Well, you probably like growing up for you, you probably didn't, and especially in Minnesota, I wouldn't think that you'd be around a lot of people with disabilities. And so when you get into that situation, what was that like to be around a lot of people with disabilities?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
What's really cool about being on the team is getting to hang out with other disabled dudes. It was the first time in my life that I was not the minority in the room. It was like all of a sudden I'm just around peers that have been through some of the same experiences, and we got really comfortable with our disabilities, and just we laughed so hard about stuff that other people just probably couldn't even grasp, you know?
Yeah.
We had a game where we'd see who could hold open their messed up hand longer. Like, just like, ready, go! Shit, all right, you win. Like, that was good. But, like, that kind of thing where all of a sudden it was just not just okay, but normal to be disabled.
Yeah.
So I felt like I was able to take that level of comfortability to the stage, too.
Yeah.
So,
Was your coach disabled?
no.
Okay.
He's just an asshole.
They make you guys run laps. You know, I can't even see you guys being serious as a team. All I can see you guys in practice is smarting off, saying stuff.
I mean, there's a lot of just joking around on the field, which was great, you know.
Yeah.
Running drills, talking shit, you know.
Yeah.
The best thing you could we should have filmed this was the palsy guys trying to do the speed ladder. Dude, it looked like they caught in a fishing net or something at the end of it. It's insane. Yeah, a lot of trash talk. I was definitely the guy that got the team laughing.
No.
Yeah. But for sure, like, it was, our coach was a hard ass, man. He was a assistant coach for the women's team that won, like, Mia Hamm era.
Yeah.
So he was just a hard ass, and part of me thinks he didn't really understand disability or disabled sport, because he would try to fit us all into the same mold of a soccer player, whereas opposed to be like, well, you're really good at short distances, let's work on that, as opposed to making you run these long distances that you know you suck at.
Yeah.
You know, everybody knows.
Do you keep up with any of your old teammates?
Oh, for sure, tons of them.
Yeah.
But the captain, Josh McKinney, the guy that scored that goal, he's in the records as he scored the most goals of any U.S. men's player in international play.
What was his disability?
He got palsy.
Oh, palsy. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then we were like best friends.
Yeah.
Like, they usually room us together on trips, and I feel like I'm probably the reason why we lost most of the tournaments, is because I had him up laughing all night.
Yeah.
The star player, and had him just.
He's all bloodshot to the games the next day.
Yeah. We would definitely laugh pretty damn hard together.
So what's next for you, Josh? I mean, I know that...
You told me you'd get me lunch.
well, we might live up to that promise.
What's next for me? I mean, obviously kind of got to ride out this pandemic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting to what that's done to the entertainment business.
Yeah.
Obviously, being a stand-up depends on having an audience that you're not afraid is going to kill you.
So what do you do though? You're home now probably a lot more. So are you working on your process a lot more? Are you looking at what you want next for your career? Or are you just on the couch eating potato chips and watching soaps?
It's interesting because people are like, oh, being home, you must have so much new material. Well, it turns out 2020, not so funny. No, I've been working on my book a lot. I've been working on my art. I have an art show coming up. So I always enjoy that. It's a different way to express myself. And then, honestly, I've been enjoying the break. Like, I don't mind not working.
Yeah.
To me, it's good. I think this is a good time to have this in my life. You know, I worked my ass off for a long, long time, and now I get to enjoy a little time home with my kids and work on other things. Like I said, I really want to finish my book. It'd be huge for me.
Yeah.
But also learning Zoom shows, which is not an ideal platform for comedy.
Yeah. No, it's not.
It's really rough.
I know.
So I've had to I had to look at it in a different way. Like the first 2 months, I was like, I'm not doing a stupid Zoom show. That's torture. And then I was like, okay, old man, either get with the times or get out of the way,
Yeah.
So I just realized this is maybe what it is for a while. You better get good at it and have people still want you to perform for them. So I just embraced it, and I've gotten really good at like Zoom shows.
Yeah.
Because you can't look at it like stand-up. It's not stand-up.
Right.
It's like I'll sit down right in the thing and get close, and it's all about your facial expression.
Yeah.
And like, you know how in the Zoom calls you can have the gallery viewing of who's there?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, you're not laughing, I'm going to the next, scroll over to the audience that I want. And
Yeah, using your environment to your advantage.
I knocked the iPad over one time, and just like during the live show, it just, you see my ceiling.
Yeah.
And people were dying. Like,
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, that's it. You just got to embrace it. I'm the cameraman now.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you think, shifting gears just for a second, what do you think are the most, stereotypical, or maybe the things that people think about disabled people that you think are false, or that you wish people could overcome?
Well, I just think there's such a preconceived idea of what disability is. And until you start seeing individuals, then it's really pointless because how do you ask for just like enough respect for you to hear me out if you are like, because the problem is a lot of times you see there's a physical disability, you also assume there's a mental disability.
Yeah.
That's common for me to experience. I'm like, bitch, I'm smarter than you. Like, you want to play this game?
Right.
We can play this game.
Yeah.
Like, I'm happy to. This would be fun for me. But I think overall, as the disabled world, it's like we're not asking for wheelchair ramps or those automatic doors. As a people, we're just asking you to see us as people.
Yeah.
Which is so weird that I'm disabled, so I'm in the same category as a blind person, a deaf person, someone with Down syndrome, or amputee. They just put us all together.
One bucket.
Right. I
Yeah.
don't need a wheelchair ramp.
Right.
I
Right.
just need you to like be able to hear me order my food and not condescend me.
And it's funny. I think a lot of society is like that. I mean, it's so easy to put groups of people into big buckets instead of really looking at them independently and individually.
Put them in their own bucket.
Put them in their own bucket. Exactly.
I want my own bucket, you COVID bastard.
Now, so one last question for you, Josh.
Yeah.
One last question. Can you handle one last question?
Let's see what it is.
You're at the end of life. You're on your deathbed. You're looking your kids in the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to be able to tell them?
I didn't steal their money. It was already gone when I got there.
Well, they're not going to believe that.
Okay. Man, I would hope by that time that they would have already heard all the, like, you got this, I feel like I just say, I love you guys more than anything that I've ever done in my life. That's it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Like
People are like, oh, winning last comic? No, having kids.
Mm.
To me, that's the biggest accomplishment I've ever had.
Mm. Well, you're good at it.
Well,
I'll
thanks.
tell you that.
And then if they're serial killers, I don't know. I really fucked up.
That's from their mom. That's their mom.
I really messed that up.
Well, thanks for coming on today. You're just one of my favorite people in the world. And I say that, that's authentic. You and I,
man.
We've been buddies for a long time, and I always appreciate you and what you do. And we're always spending our time lifting each other up. So
You're getting heavy.
Having you on here was awesome for me today. Thanks, Josh.
That's a good way to end it, though.